Hey everyone, Jake here for Extreme Terrain, and in this video we're taking a look at the BAK Industries Backflip MX4 folding tonneau cover fitting 2022 and newer Tundras. If you're looking to make the most out of your bed space, tonneau covers are one of the most popular modifications that owners can make to their trucks, and they address one of the biggest shortcomings of a pickup, and that is the lack of enclosed storage space. The Backflip MX4 that we have here is one of the slickest, most versatile, and most durable options out there for your Tundra. And while it might cost quite a bit of money, you get a lot for it. If you've already waded through the site, you'll know that there are tons of choices when it comes to tonneau covers. But the MX4 really piqued my interest for a few reasons. First, this thing is super low profile. Even folded up here on the table, it's really not all that thick. Now, other covers may claim to be low profile, but as you can see on our truck here, this one sits almost completely even with the sides of the bed. So at a glance, you may not even notice it. It sits totally even with the bed caps, and that means that it not only looks good, but it's also going to provide you with some additional security, as it makes it more difficult to pry open since there's really nothing sticking up above the edges of the bed. Now, speaking of security, it is worth noting that when your tailgate is locked, that means the cover is locked as well. So that means you can use your tailgate without having to also open the cover. Again, it's going to provide you with a bunch of extra security. You won't have to worry about somebody breaking into it. Now, this is a 4-panel hard folding tonneau cover as well, and believe it or not, it can actually support up to 400 pounds that is evenly distributed across the top of the cover itself. So if you need to put something up there for some reason, you've got quite a bit of capability. Now, to open this one up, it's very simple. There's just a couple of cords inside. You're gonna pull that and then flip the panel back. Do the same thing for the next one. Now, you can flip this most of the way back and keep it folded up as you drive, thanks to the included straps here. But if you do need the entirety of the bed space, you can also use the included prop rods, which are already pre-installed on the rails, to open this all the way up. So these prop rods and the included stops will keep the cover upright without contacting the rear window or body of your truck. So you can drive with this fully folded up and again have access to all of your bed space. So overall, this thing is super versatile. It's also gonna help keep your stuff dry as you've got nice weather stripping on the edges, and the included drain hoses help keep water out of the bed space, funneling it out of the truck. Now, as you might have guessed from the fact that this can support up to that 400 evenly distributed pounds, the MX4 is super solid. The cover and the rails are all made from heavy-duty aluminum, and they've got premium EPDM seals and end caps. So again, this is very strong, but it's also really lightweight. Even getting this up on the table, which is normally a bit of a cumbersome job, was pretty simple by myself. There's also going to be pretty much no chance of anybody just cutting through this like they might a soft cover either. You'd need something really heavy duty for that. So somebody's not going to just come up with a knife and be able to get to your stuff. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, this one is going to run you about $1,300, which does put it to about the top of the range for a hard folding cover. Now, as you've probably gathered, this is a premium product, and thus it commands a premium price. But you get what you pay for in this case, and if you want the best protection and flexibility you can buy in a hard folding cover, the MX4 is basically going to be it. But we're back to good news here, talking about the installation. We're going to give this a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter. It should only take you about an hour to complete the job. This is a totally bolt-on installation. It doesn't require any permanent modifications to fit it to your truck. Not much more I can say about it here, so with that, let's head out to the shop and we'll walk you through the install process.
For this install, you will need a drill, a ratchet, a 5/8 drill bit, 13mm socket, Phillips head screwdriver, a pair of angle cutters. What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing a tonneau cover on our Tundra, so let's get started. So in order to install this tonneau cover on this particular truck, ours has these factory option attachment rails here, which we're going to need to remove because the clamping system for the tonneau cover has to go directly where these are, and it's not really going to jive. So we're going to take a T30 Torx bit and remove the various T30 Torx screws holding these rails in around the bed of the truck. And if you do have these on your vehicle, you will need to remove them as well in order to install your tonneau cover. So we'll go ahead and grab our impact and our T30 Torx bit and run these out, get these off. we have this one removed, we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other 2 rails. So we're getting ready to start installing our tonneau cover. Now, one thing to note is our truck specifically did come with the factory cargo rails that are mounted around the bed. We have removed those to demonstrate installing this tonneau cover without it. It does come with the optional clamps to install with the bed rails, but we've gone ahead and taken those off just to show you. Most likely probably won't have those, so we're going to go ahead and do those with the standard clamps. Again, you do have the optional clamps to install with the cargo rails. For demonstration purposes, we're doing it with the traditional clamps. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our rails and go ahead and get those installed on the bed of the truck. Now we have our drainage tube attachment here that's going to be facing the cab of the truck. We're going to go ahead and set this on. Slide that as far forward towards the cab as possible, and we'll hold this in place. Then we can go ahead and grab our supplied clamps here. Now we'll go ahead and get our clamp in place. We're just going to install one loosely for now. Now, this is kind of tough to see, but it's going to go directly underneath of your rail here. That's going to squeeze in place like so. We're going to go ahead and snug that down with a 13mm socket on our ratchet. Now we have that middle clamp just holding everything on as a placeholder for now. We'll adjust it in a second, but we can go ahead and install our other 2 clamps for our rails. Now this front one here, we're going to put about 6 to 8 inches from the end of our bed. Go ahead and get that lined up. Put that in place, then tighten that one down. Then we can go ahead and install our rear clamp. Now this one, we're going to put it as close to the end of our bed as possible. Now obviously we can't go past this thing, so we're going to pretty much butt it up against that. And you'll feel the end of your little slide rail here. You can kind of bring that out. Get right onto that. Now once you have this rail on, you can go ahead and do the same thing for your other rail. Next, we can go ahead and install our foam pad here on the front of our bed. Now it does have an adhesive backing, so what we're going to do is lay it out, kind of hand mark it to length and cut it with our angle cutters, and then we'll go ahead and stick that in place. So now that we have it cut, we'll go ahead and remove the backing and stick this on. Now we can get ready to go ahead and install our drain tubes. Now one thing to note with this specific year model truck, R23, is that the holes that these are supposed to go to are too small for the supplied drain tubes. Now what your kit will suggest is to drill out a hole the size of a 5/8 drill bit to go ahead and be able to feed this drain tube down through the bottom of the bed. Now for demonstration purposes, we are not going to drill into our vehicle, but if you want these to go out of the bottom of your bed at home, that is what you will need to do. So we'll go ahead and stick this on our drain tube attachment for our rail and kind of run it to where it should go for the bottom of the bed. Again, you will need to drill out a hole to fit this through. Then it would go right down here to the bottom, and you would route this right to this bottom hole here, again drilling that out to make that fit. And once you have this one on, you can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So now we're gonna go ahead and get our strap clips installed, and these are gonna go on this little end piece here. And we have pre-drilled holes for our threaded inserts and Phillips head screws to go into. So what we're gonna do is insert these threaded inserts into the back side of these holes so that we can mount our buckle clips and our Phillips head screws to get them secured in place. Through the back side here. We'll get our first Phillips head screw started, then we'll install our second one. Now after we've got this tightened down with our Phillips head screwdriver, we'll go ahead and make sure our clips go in. Nice and secure. Then we can do the same thing for the other side. So next we can go ahead and install our locking clamps onto our channel here on our front panel that is going to be facing the cab of the truck. So it has this little elevator bolt here as well as a slot on the rear. We're going to go ahead and slide that into the channel, and then once we have it on the truck in the rails, we can go ahead and tighten it down with our hand screw here. So we'll go ahead and leave this loose for now. Go ahead and get the other side on. Now we can go ahead and set our cover onto our truck. So now before we tighten anything down, we're gonna go ahead and fully unfold our cover just to make sure it's even and set where we want in regards to our tailgate and make sure that functions properly. Everything's gonna seal up. Then we'll come back and snug everything down. So now we'll go ahead and lock our rear section of our cover down by pulling down on the tabs, getting our locking tabs free. Go ahead and make sure they lock. And we're going to go ahead and test the function of our tailgate. So we'll put it up, make sure it seals, and nothing interferes with our tailgate closing or opening. So now we know that this is nice and snug but doesn't interfere with our tailgate. So we'll go ahead and test our open function. Go ahead and close it one more time just for... Okay. Now we'll go back and start securing everything from the front of our cover. Now we can come into our tonneau cover here, and for demonstration purposes, we're leaving this laid out. You could fold it up if you wanted to, but just for safety's sake and everything else, we're going to leave it unfolded just to know it's right where we want it. We'll go ahead and get our latches in place on our rails. There is a groove in the latch itself that's going to line up with the groove on the rail. Make sure that's secure. And we'll go ahead and tighten it down. Then we'll do the same thing for the other side. So now that we have everything secure up front, we can go ahead and fold our cover back up and get everything else situated. So we'll release our latches here. Fold this up. Now this cover does have locking latches at each stage of folding, so you want to make sure they work. You hear that click, and you unlatch those the same way. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is set our height for our struts here, because this does have a stand-up function like this to where we can have more room for cargo or anything else bulky that we're going to be carrying. Now this is your retainer and height adjuster for your struts that are on your rails. We'll show you that in a second. For now, we just got our adjuster and retainer set as high as it'll go, and it is simply adjusted by this knob here. If you loosen it, you go down and up. Once you have it in your spot, tighten it back down. Now we'll go ahead and pull our strut out. That simply just pops out, it's right on your rail. We can go ahead and get those in place, just like so. So now we have our initial adjustment done on this. We're gonna need to go ahead and readjust it to its proper sitting position, which is like this, which is gonna be resting against the back of the cab. So first we're gonna install these little rubber pieces on the back of our cover here. That is to protect your cab from any damage. And then we'll go ahead and adjust these strut retainers to hold it in place firmly. So now I'm going to show you where this usually lands on the back of the cab. As you can see, it's going to be right across the top edge of your cover there. So what we're going to do is grab our provided little rubber grommets here, remove the adhesive backing cover, and apply those across the back of our tonneau cover here to protect our cab. Go ahead and stick this one on. Then we'll do the same thing for the other two, spread out across the cover. So now we have this firmly against the back of our cab with our rubber padding, and we really don't want this to bounce around in this position at all if we want to drive with it on, which you can. So we're going to go ahead and get our strut in position, bring this down to adjust it and tighten it up, make sure it's nice and secure, it doesn't wobble around. Got that side on, and then we do the same thing for the other side.
That is going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Back Industries Backflip MX4 folding tonneau cover for 2022 and newer Tundras. Thanks so much for watching, and for all things Tundra, be sure to keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.